The corridors of Windsor Castle have witnessed centuries of secrets. Kings have wept behind closed doors. Queens have buried truths beneath protocol and pearl necklaces. But what unfolded inside those ancient stone walls on one quiet autumn evening? A moment so charged, so devastating, would shatter the carefully constructed silence that the royal family had maintained for years. It began as most royal crises do, not with a shout, but with a whisper. Sources close to the inner circle of the palace, individuals who have spent decades navigating the treacherous corridors of royal protocol, describe a tension that had been quietly building for months. A tension that had nothing to do with state affairs, diplomatic tour, or succession logistics. This was deeply personal. This was about loyalty, about betrayal, and about a flirtation that, according to those same sources, had been carefully hidden until now. Prince William, the Prince of Wales, a man trained from birth to maintain composure under the weight of an entire monarchy, reportedly reached his breaking point. Not in public, not at a press conference, but inside Windsor Castle, behind the gilded walls that the world never sees, where the cameras don't follow and the rules of royal dignity hang heaviest. Those present describe his demeanor that evening as something they had never witnessed before. Calm, terrifyingly calm, the kind of calm that doesn't signal peace, it signals a decision already made. And the decision, according to multiple palace insiders, revolved entirely around Meghan. What had she done? What had been uncovered? And perhaps most disturbingly, how long had William known? The answers to those questions, buried beneath layers of protocol, leaked documents, and whispered testimonies, are only now beginning to surface. And what they reveal will change everything you thought you knew. To understand what William discovered inside Windsor Castle that evening, you have to go back, not weeks, not months, further. Palace insiders, speaking under strict conditions of anonymity, describe a pattern of behavior that reportedly dates back to the earliest days of Meghan's integration into the royal family, a period that the public remembers as glamorous, hopeful, historic. But behind the scenes, according to those same sources, something far more complicated was taking shape. It was during joint royal engagements, formal events, private dinners, and closed-door briefings that certain interactions between Meghan and William were first noticed. Not by the press, not by the public, but by staff, by aides, by the kind of people who stand quietly in corners at royal functions and observe everything, record everything, and eventually report everything. One senior household aide, whose identity remains protected, reportedly described these interactions as charged in a way that made everyone in the room deeply uncomfortable. And then there was the letter. A handwritten letter, never meant to be seen, reportedly discovered not through surveillance, not through a leak, but through an accident so simple, so mundane, that its consequences feel almost impossible to comprehend. What was written inside that letter? The letter, according to sources with direct knowledge of its existence, was discovered in the late hours of a Thursday evening, inside a private correspondence drawer located in one of Windsor Castle's lesser-used guest quarters. A drawer that, under normal circumstances, would never have been opened by anyone outside of immediate household staff. But these were not normal circumstances. A routine security audit, the kind conducted periodically across all royal residences, cataloging documents, personal effects, and sensitive materials, had flagged an irregularity. A sealed envelope, unmarked, bearing no official royal crest, no postage, no return address, simply a name, written in handwriting that a senior palace aide reportedly recognized immediately. The handwriting was Meghan's. What followed, according to insiders, was a process of escalating urgency. The envelope was not opened immediately. Protocol demanded it be logged, assessed, and passed through the appropriate channels before any action was taken. But protocol, in this instance, moved faster than anyone anticipated, because the aide who first handled the envelope, A woman who had served the royal household for over 14 years made a decision that would alter the course of everything. She brought it directly to William. No intermediaries, no legal counsel, no private secretary buffer, directly to William. Those who witnessed his reaction in the moments after he read its contents describe a man visibly shaken. A man who sat in complete silence for what felt, to those present, like an unbearable stretch of time. His jaw set, his eyes fixed on a middle distance that seemed miles beyond the walls surrounding him. He read it once, then again. Then he folded it carefully, deliberately, and placed it inside his jacket pocket. And then he picked up his phone. But who did he call, and what did he say? The phone call lasted 11 minutes. 11 minutes that, according to a source positioned within earshot of the exchange, contained no pleasantries, no royal formality, no diplomatic cushioning. Just words, direct, measured, and by all accounts devastating in their clarity. William called Princess Anne. Not his private secretary, not a legal advisor, not even King Charles. He called Anne, the one member of the royal family whose reputation for unflinching honesty has never once been questioned, whose loyalty to the crown operates entirely outside the realm of sentiment, and whose counsel, in moments of genuine crisis, William has historically trusted above all others. What was communicated during those 11 minutes remains, officially, unknown. Palace representatives have declined all requests for comment. Royal correspondents from outlets including the BBC, The Times, and The Telegraph have confirmed attempts to verify the details of this exchange, all met with the same wall of institutional silence. But silence inside the royal family has never meant innocence. What sources do confirm is what happened immediately after that call ended. Within hours, a series of quiet but unmistakable movements began rippling through the upper echelons of the palace infrastructure. Meetings were rescheduled. A planned joint engagement, one that would have placed William and Meghan in the same public setting within 72 hours, was abruptly cancelled. No official reason was given. A brief statement cited scheduling adjustments. The British press initially accepted this without question. But behind the scenes, royal correspondents were already receiving anonymous tips, fragments, breadcrumbs, each one individually dismissible but together, forming a picture that was becoming impossible to ignore. And then the photographs surfaced. Photographs that no one inside the palace had anticipated. Photographs that had been sitting quietly in the possession of a single individual for nearly 2 years. Who took them and why release them now? The photographs emerged first on a private messaging thread, not on social media, not through a major tabloid, but through an encrypted channel that royal correspondents have historically used to exchange sensitive, unverified intelligence before deciding whether to publish. Within 48 hours, they had reached the desks of 3 of Britain's most senior royal editors simultaneously. And within 72 hours, the world was watching. The images themselves were not scandalous in the conventional sense. There was no dramatic gesture, no obvious indiscretion captured in a single damning frame. What made them devastating was their context, their frequency, the timestamps. 17 photographs, spanning a period of 8 months, each one individually explainable, but collectively, painting a narrative that contradicted everything Meghan had publicly stated about her relationship with the wider royal family during that precise window of time. Social media fractured instantly. On X, formerly Twitter, the hashtag #WindsorTruth reached trending status across the United Kingdom, the United States, and Australia within hours of the first images circulating. Royal commentators, many of whom had previously defended Meghan's account of her royal experience, were visibly recalibrating their positions in real time. One prominent British broadcaster, mid-segment, paused, looked directly into the camera, and said simply, If these are authenticated, nothing will ever look the same. Inside Windsor Castle, the atmosphere, according to those present, was suffocating. Catherine, Princess of Wales, had by this point been fully informed. Those close to her describe a woman who received the information with a composure so absolute, so controlled, that it was, in itself, its own kind of message. She said very little. She needed to say very little, because William had already made his decision. The letter, the photographs, the 11-minute phone call, the cancelled engagement, every thread finally pulling together into one irreversible moment of truth. And somewhere beyond the gates of Windsor Castle, the world held its breath, waiting for what would come next. The crown never falls quietly. It lands and the ground shakes for years. What came next was not a public statement. It was not a press conference. It was not the kind of carefully choreographed royal response that communications teams spend weeks engineering into digestible, damage-controlled narratives for global consumption. What came next was a silence so deliberate, so architecturally precise, that those who understood the inner language of the royal family recognized it immediately for what it truly was. A verdict. Within the upper corridors of royal power, silence is never passive. It is a weapon. It is a wall. And when deployed by someone of William's position, a future king, a man whose every public word carries the institutional weight of centuries, that silence communicates something that no press release ever could. Meghan was no longer being defended. Royal protection units reassigned. Invitations to upcoming palace events quietly withdrawn. The subtle but unmistakable machinery of royal exclusion. The same machinery that has historically dismantled the positions of those who crossed invisible institutional lines had been set into motion, efficiently, irreversibly, without a single public word uttered. Buckingham Palace insiders describe the mood during this period as something between grief and grim resolution. Staff who had witnessed previous royal crises, divorces, scandals, public fractures that had rewritten the monarchy's modern history, reportedly described this as feeling fundamentally different, more contained, more deliberate, and somehow more final. Because this was not a crisis that had erupted publicly and demanded a public response. This was a reckoning that had been building privately, letter by letter, photograph by photograph, whispered testimony by whispered testimony, until the weight of it became simply too enormous to contain. And William, the man who had spent his entire life being prepared for the crown, had finally drawn his line. The question that now grips royal watchers, palace insiders, and a global audience watching with barely contained disbelief is no longer what happened inside Windsor Castle. It is what happens next. And whether the truth, once fully released, is something the monarchy or the world is truly prepared to face.